Okay, this is the prediction video for Challenge Roth, which is this weekend. I'm going to put my goggles on so I can read the notes I've made on my computer screen. If you enjoy this video, please hit like and subscribe. Cheers. Right then, to stay on the Roth bandwagon and join the hype, I thought I'd put together, by popular demand I will add, my race predictions for both the male and female race. Now I'll start by saying all these predictions and opinions are my own. I've used data from Torsten, previous results, had a look at some of the names I didn't recognise on the start list, and gained some information from some of the people that in the pro field I'm fortunate enough to call my friends, but by no means am I led by bias or kind of revealing tactics here that I think aren't common knowledge, etc. So we'll start with the women's race, as I strongly believe the women's race is probably going to be more exciting, and it tends to be at any race, but let's crack on. So the swim, like with any race, is going to be super critical. One of the key decisions that has yet to be revealed is obviously if the swim is wetsuit or non-wetsuit. And I do think that is going to have a huge impact on the race. And we'll come to that, particularly at the latter part, because I might change my podium. But looking through the results, looking through the data, etc., it's quite clear that Fenella is the clear favourite to sort of lead out the swim and be that lead female. There is a light question as can Lisa Norden, can Marjorie, I don't know her that well, can they hang on to her feet and form a little pack? I think that's highly unlikely, particularly if it's non-wetsuit. So then the question then comes, how big is the second group going to be? Is there actually going to be 3 or 4 groups? And actually some of those big favourites, those big names like Reef, Philip, Haug, are they going to be in one group together, or are they going to be strung out? I think if it's a non-wetsuit swim, you're definitely going to see it strung out. And we've seen that Annie Haug, for example, and potentially Laura Philipp will be even further back, up to sort of 5 to 7 minutes back from the front of the race, if that's the case. The difference this year for Annie Haug in particular is she is going to have potentially allies on the bike. She's going to have lots of women around her who are also motivated to get to the front of the race. However, I do think there's probably going to be a push from someone like Lisa Norden, possibly Daniela Ryf as well, early in the bike, similar to what we saw in the men's race last year, where if the gap is 90 seconds, 2 minutes to Fenella, etc., that they'll put in a huge effort to catch Fenella, work with them and ride at the front of the race and keep the likes of Annie Haug, Chelsea Sodaro, etc. further back and not provide that support. Onto the bike itself, obviously we know Fenella is both strong enough mentally and physically to sort of lead a race like this, and I'm sure, and I know for a fact, that she is very much hoping she has a very similar experience, particularly going up Solar Hill for the first time, where she is in complete control and is at the lead of the race and is able to enjoy the atmosphere and do her famous cheering and fist bumping, etc. However, I do think with the firepower behind, as I said, I do think she's probably going to end up with company at some point. Whether that's 1 or 2 people or the whole group of girls, yet to be determined. I do think that we might see some super fast bike splits. So Reef is the current bike course record holder, I believe, at 4 hours 31. Annie Haug and Fenella rode around 4:33, 4:35 last year. With the sort of working together, particularly those girls chasing the front of the race, could we see some people go under 4.5 hours on this bike course from the female field? That would be pretty impressive. Coming off the bike, I reckon we could see 3 to 5 girls within a minute of each other. I think it could be that exciting where Fenella's gone up the road and people have hunted her down, but they've not quite got there, and we end up with some of the big favourites very close together. The run, the question is how fast will they go? I think we're all hoping that we see an Annie Haug, Laura Philipp and Chelsea Sodaro kind of head-to-head battle. They're definitely the sort of 3 strongest runners in the field. The question will be, have they caught the front of the race by the start of the run, or do they have some chasing to do before they can actually, dictate or kind of run their own race to some degree? Obviously, Annie Haug was very patient last year, but she may feel under pressure if she's got Laura Philipp and Chelsea already breathing down her neck and they still haven't got the front of the race. I think the kind of home advantage and the course knowledge is going to be really key here. So I do think it's going to come down to Annie Haug / Laura Philipp in the last sort of 10 miles for the win. And my money is on Laura coming out on top. I think if everything goes well and she's able to deal with the heat and she runs as fast as we think she can run and sort of close to that 2:45 mark, we could see her doing something like 8:15, which would be unbelievable. And I think in that circumstance, with a wetsuit swim, Annie Haug could be there as well and doing an 8. She might break Chrissy's record as well, but obviously with Laura finishing ahead. So I have Laura 1, Annie Haug 2, and I'm going to be a bit biased and put the Queen, Fenella, at 3rd. I think Fenella's well on track to run a sub 3 now. If she does that, she'll go around 8:25, and with her course knowledge and experience, I think she may round out the proper podium. Moving on to the men, I don't believe the wetsuit, non-wetsuit will have such a big factor here. Obviously, Joe Skipper will be praying for a wetsuit swim, but all the other guys, all the strong swimmers that swim under 50 minutes, I don't think they'll mind either way. I think we're going to see one of the largest groups of men get out at the front of the race that we've seen at Roth. So last year we only had Jan and Maurice Clavel. This year we're going to have a group led by Laidlow and Bakkegaard. And they're probably not going to swim quite as fast as predicted, 45-46. They're probably going to swim sort of 48-49. But you can expect quite a large proportion of men. And what is great about the men's field to some degree is there's lots of people that swim a minute slower, 30 seconds slower, a minute slower, 30 seconds slower. So you'd be a long old chain of men together rather than sort of split up. There's a full range of abilities. For that reason, I think the bike could actually be really boring. I just think the groups could be too big. It would be really difficult to get away. It's going to be very hard to push the pace. I also don't think, albeit I believe the women might ride a bit quicker, but for motivation reasons, I think the men might actually ride a bit slower than they did the year before. So I think Ditlev rode like a 4:01. There were a couple of 4:03s in there. I think we can expect to see bike splits closer to 4:10. There are less motos this year, we're told by Roth, and last year the conditions were perfect. I don't quite know what they'll be just yet for race day, but last year there wasn't a breath of wind for most of it, so it really was a fast day. The obvious one we'll all be looking for is Joe Skipper. Can he swim well enough and then bike hard enough to stay close enough to the front of the race or even get to the front of the race? I think if Joe can get off the bike 3 to 5 minutes back from the sort of majority or the front of the race, that would be a huge win for him. In terms of people that are able to actually get away, the clear favourites on the bike are Ditlev and Laidlow. I think what would be interesting is if they tried together. I think it's going to be very difficult for one person to get away, but I think with a bit of tactics at the right time and the right bit of the course, both are quite good at racing, both are quite good at riding a bike. Potentially they're willing to work together to get away, and it favours them both as decent runners but not the fastest runners. Onto the run, I think it's all eyes on Patrick Lang effectively. Will he be within close enough distance to the front of the race? Have Sam or Laidlow Laidlow and Ditlev got away or someone else? If not, then they're going to be in trouble. I think Patrick's going to run a low 2:30. Can he go as fast as Israel? 2:31, I think it was. Maybe. We've seen others do that recently on other courses potentially. Patrick ran the run course record last year at 2:35, so we know he's got it in it. He's hugely motivated by this race. He'd love to win it again. So anyone who does bridge a gap or comes off the bike with Patrick is in for a running race. There's also, lots of men that can run 2:45, but the step up or difference to running the 2:30s is just phenomenal. So yeah, similar to the women, I think if all plays out, and potentially Ditlev and Laidlow get away a little bit, but Patrick runs down the front of the race and it all plays out behind them, I fully expect 2 of the men to potentially break the record, both Patrick coming in first with Ditlev in second. And then to round out my podium, I've picked fan favourite Daniel Baekkegard. I think I'd love to see him do well. I think I'd love to see him win it, but I do think that might be a bit of a stretch. But a good podium for Daniel here would be really good, and really good to see him do that at that level. He's obviously used to racing Patrick, both in Israel and other races, so he kind of is someone who can take it to Patrick, but isn't quite there on the run. That said, if Ditlev does have the lead off the bike that he kind of had last year and it plays out that way, obviously Ditlev is going to be difficult to beat. The one bit I hope doesn't happen, like rumours are it happened last year, is if he is on to break the record and he is leading, I hope the German media and the fans let him know that. I think he was 8 or 9 seconds away last year, and having a beer with him after the race, humble brag, he wasn't aware how close he was, and he definitely felt like if someone had told him in the last couple of K, he may have just sneaked it, but he was sort of told that he was miles away and he had no idea, so he kind of trusted what was said. So that's that. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be interested to hear it. My predictions on Kona last year were terrible. I don't think I got any of the podium right, so I fully expect me to not get any right this time, but it's always fun to do. I enjoy looking through previous results, data, and where people are at, who's raced when this year, etc. Couple of shout outs. Will Cowan, it's his first pro race. Really interested to see how Will goes. Having sort of raced against him somewhat a couple of weeks ago, it'd be good to see how that form translate to the full distance. He has said he's doing this race because I told him to do it. So again, humble brag. And then a couple of age groupers. So Steve Derritt, who's the current age group world champion, who's a British lad, won the long course race in Ibiza. Really excited to see him go here. He definitely has the capability. I mean, I think he could do it in his sleep, go under 8:30, but he could really do a low 8:20, maybe even just under that. Like, he is super, super competitive. I think he's the current, well, I don't think, he is the current age group world champion over 70.3 distance as well. So really excited to see how he goes. And then another fellow Brit, although he lives over in Europe, is Zach Cooper. Really excited to see him go. Raced him there last year in Roth. He had a great swim and bike, didn't run very well, but it was his first long distance. We all have to go through that apprenticeship a bit, but he is in phenomenal shape. He looks like he's all he wants to do is beat Dr. Plews, Dan Plews, who's racing. So yeah, let's see how that plays out, but I fully expect him to be right up there as well, competing for the age group or overall age group win. My advice to both of them is, if Lars, the chap from the Zwift Academy, comes past on the bike, he's normally sort of just over an hour swim-wise, and these boys swim under an hour. So if he does come past on the bike, hold on tight is my advice. He's overtaken me twice in 2 races. Both times I've tried to stay with him. It's a bit of a challenge, but both times he's pretty much caught the front of the age group race. So you're guaranteed a ticket to the front of the race if you can hold on to his wheel for a significant period of time. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and everyone who's racing, I hope you have a good day. Take on lots of fluid. I know it's going to be a hot one, but it's an unbelievable race, so enjoy it.